Welcome back to Neo World Update, bringing you the latest news from around the world. The world is watching with bated breath as headlines flash across screens and conversations buzz in every corner of the globe. A new wave of U.S. tariffs, announced on August 18, 2025, shakes the very foundations of global commerce, sending shockwaves through financial markets and boardrooms alike. The Trump administration's gold tariff shock is more than a policy tweak. It's a seismic shift, threatening to unravel decades of painstaking economic cooperation and trust between nations. The U.S., once the anchor of global trade, is now its chief disruptor, with tariff rates soaring to levels not seen since the 1930s, evoking memories of past economic crises. For Canada, America's largest trading partner, this is an existential challenge, forcing a painful reassessment of its most vital relationship and raising urgent questions about its economic future. Global markets are reeling, goods in transit are suddenly hit with crippling taxes, and businesses face chaos and uncertainty as supply chains grind to a halt and contracts are thrown into doubt. The effects are immediate, from pricier cars in Toronto, where dealerships scramble to adjust, to families feeling the pinch in their monthly budgets, to costlier groceries in Ohio, where shoppers are confronted with rising bills and empty shelves. Everyday life is changing in ways both subtle and profound. President Trump is betting that aggressive tariffs will bring jobs back home and generate $50 billion a month in revenue, promising a revival of American manufacturing and a stronger domestic economy. Critics, however, warn of rising inflation, slower growth, and the specter of stagflation, a toxic mix of stagnation and high prices that could squeeze families and businesses alike. The world is now navigating uncharted waters, with old trade maps rendered obsolete overnight, and new alliances forming in real time as countries scramble to adapt. The stakes are high. The coming weeks will determine whether this gamble revitalizes American industry or triggers a global economic downturn, with ripple effects that could last for generations. For nations like Canada, the choices made now will define their economic destiny for years to come, shaping the lives and livelihoods of millions. The era of predictable global trade is over. A new, uncertain chapter has begun, and the world must brace itself for the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. This tariff shock is the culmination of years of escalating U.S. trade actions, a process that has unfolded in full view of the world. Each step has been marked by growing tensions, public debate, and a sense that the global order was shifting beneath our feet. At the heart of it all is President Trump's conviction that America has been shortchanged by global deals, fueling a determination to rewrite the rules. His administration has consistently argued that previous agreements left the U.S. vulnerable, and that bold action was needed to restore balance. From the first steel and aluminum tariffs to the high-stakes China trade war, every move has been about leveraging U.S. market power for better terms. These actions sent shockwaves through industries and boardrooms, forcing companies and countries alike to rethink their strategies. The expiration of the U.S.-China tariff ceasefire in August 2025 was a flashpoint, reigniting tensions worldwide. Markets reacted instantly, and governments scrambled to respond to the new reality. Disputes with the EU and standoffs with India and Brazil set the stage for sweeping unilateral action. The U.S. signaled it was prepared to act alone, regardless of international pushback. The administration's philosophy is clear: global trade is a zero-sum game, and the U.S. intends to win. This approach has shaped every negotiation, every threat, and every new policy. Targeted tariffs, like 50% on Indian goods and new investigations into Brazil, blur the line between trade and foreign policy. These measures are not just about economics, they are about asserting American influence and reshaping alliances. The August tariffs are not an anomaly but the logical extension of a long-standing strategy. They represent the latest chapter in a story of confrontation, recalibration, and relentless pursuit of advantage. The U.S. has challenged international bodies, closed loopholes, and doubled down on bilateral deals where it holds the most leverage. Multilateralism has given way to a more transactional, hard-nosed approach. The message is unmistakable. The old rules no longer apply, and the world must adapt to a new American-led order. Allies and adversaries alike are being forced to reconsider their positions. For allies and rivals alike, the era of negotiation has given way to an era of imposition. The U.S. is setting the terms and others are left to react. The global trade consensus is officially over. What comes next is uncertain, but one thing is clear: the world is entering uncharted territory, with the US at the helm of a new, unpredictable era. The gold tariff shock isn't about gold itself, but the sweeping impact of new US tariffs on hundreds of products. As the news broke, gold prices jumped. Anxiety rippled through global markets. The administration expanded 50% tariffs to over 400 new product codes, including everyday goods like motorcycles and baby products. A 100% tariff on imported microchips threatens entire industries, but exemptions are dangled for companies willing to build in the US. Apple was quick to secure such a deal, showing how tariffs are both a threat and a bargaining chip. This strategy is designed to disrupt, force realignment, and bring the trade war to Main Street. The gold tariff shock is a bold attempt to reshape the global economy by force. For Canada, the new US tariffs are a direct threat to economic stability, casting a long shadow over the nation's economic outlook. The sudden policy shift has left businesses and policymakers scrambling to adapt, as uncertainty ripples through every sector. Billions in daily cross-border trade now face a minimum 35% tariff, with USMCA exemptions muddied by complex new rules. The once seamless flow of goods is now slowed by red tape and higher costs, putting pressure on both exporters and importers. The North American auto industry, once a model of integration, is hit hard. Canada and Mexico face 25% tariffs, while Japan secures a better deal. This shift threatens the competitive edge that North American manufacturers have built over decades. This puts Canadian manufacturers at a disadvantage, threatening jobs and investment. Plants that once thrived on cross-border cooperation now face layoffs and production cuts, as companies reassess their future in an uncertain market. In response, Canada is accelerating trade diversification, with exports to the EU and UK surging. New trade agreements are being fast-tracked, as businesses look for alternative markets to offset losses from the US. Ontario Premier Doug Ford sums up the mood. "As we diversify, the American people are losing their jobs." His words reflect the growing realization that these changes have consequences on both sides of the border. The pain is real, from BC lumber mills to Quebec factories, as businesses grapple with rising costs and lost markets. Small businesses in particular are feeling the squeeze, struggling to stay afloat amid mounting challenges. The challenge: protect Canadian livelihoods without triggering a trade war Canada can't win. Policymakers are walking a tightrope, weighing every move with caution. It's a delicate balancing act with no easy answers. Every decision carries risks, and the margin for error is razor thin. The stakes for Canada's economic sovereignty have never been higher. The coming months will test the nation's resilience as it navigates this economic minefield and seeks a path forward. Prime Minister Mark Carney's response is measured and strategic. The Carney Doctrine rests on 4 pillars: uphold trade agreements, avoid costly retaliation, protect jobs, and diversify trade. Rather than escalate, Carney focuses on diplomacy and leveraging legal frameworks like the USMCA. Support is being directed to sectors hit hardest, while new trade partnerships are aggressively pursued. The government bets that US protectionism will eventually backfire, forcing a policy shift. Canada's strategy is patience and resilience, aiming to emerge stronger and more diversified. The success of this doctrine will shape Canada's future in a volatile world. The tariffs' impact is felt everywhere, from checkout counters to factory floors. US retailers warn of higher prices as 50% tariffs hit consumer goods, fueling inflation and anxiety. The University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index plunges, reflecting public unease. Even untariffed industries feel the squeeze, as uncertainty drives up costs across supply chains. For businesses, sudden rule changes mean chaos, delayed investments, frozen hiring, and the threat of moving operations abroad. In Canada, companies scramble to adapt. Auto parts makers in Windsor face tariffs that could wipe out profitability overnight. The choices are stark: absorb costs, pass them on, or find new markets. The trade war is a high-stakes test of adaptability and survival. For many, the future hinges on their ability to pivot quickly. The new reality: resilience is now a business necessity. Economists warn the tariffs will slow growth and fuel inflation, edging the US towards stagflation. Moody's and Yale Budget Lab project a 0.5% GDP hit, but S&P notes tariff revenue is shoring up government finances. The paradox: policies that hurt consumers also strengthen fiscal buffers. Markets are split, industrial stocks falter while tech giants with exemptions soar. Bond yields spike, signaling investor anxiety over long-term risk. The expired US-China truce and ongoing disputes with the EU, India, and Brazil add to global instability. The era of stable rules-based trade is over. Volatility and political risk are the new normal. Businesses and investors must adapt to a world where trade policy can shift overnight. August 2025 has set the global economy on a new, uncertain path. The gold tariff shock and US protectionism have upended decades of trade cooperation. For Canada, survival now means adaptation and diversification. All eyes are on the upcoming Carney-Trump meeting, a test of whether diplomacy can halt escalation. The US-China relationship and EU response will shape the next phase of global trade. For citizens, higher prices and economic uncertainty are the new reality. The world stands at a crossroads: fragmentation or a new equilibrium. The choices made now will define the future of global prosperity.